Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for coming this early in the morning to our session. My name is Ivana Golub. I work for Poznan Supercomputing and Networking Center, and together with my colleague, Maria Isabel Gandia-Carriedo from CSUC Radiris, who most of you probably met on Monday's workshop, we will together present Orchestrating Service Automation. So, in order to set the scene, to let you know where we are working, how we are working, etc., we will explain a little bit about our environment. And then we will talk about a Network Key Academy and some operational services and testing facilities that we have. So the two of us, we are working for the GEANT project. In case you're not familiar with what GEANT is, who GEANT, what is the idea behind GEANT, GEANT's vision is to ensure equal access to network resources and infrastructure resources to all scientists across Europe. And one way how it's being done is through the GEANT project. The GEANT project is funded by European Union. It is a part of Horizon Europe program. And this is currently, I think, 7th iteration of GEANT projects. Current project is GEANT 5.1. This is the first of 3 projects under the 7 years program. This project started in January this year, and will also last until the end of the next year, but we are already preparing for the next project. We are targeting 50 million users. 500 people are working on this project from 37 partners, which are mostly research and education institutions. So this picture has its only purpose to demonstrate that this is a relatively big project. So each of these verticals are separate projects that we call work packages. And the one that we will talk about today and the things that we will be presenting are part of what we call Work Package 6 or network development. This project is led by my colleague Pavle Vuletic from University of Belgrade and myself. And we are working together with 85 people from 31 R&E organizations from 25 countries. So it's a relatively big group and a big environment. And the link at the bottom of the page actually presents a place where you might find more information about our work, not just this one that we will present today, but also some other areas. So now I would like to hand over to Maria Isabel to tell you a little bit about the Network Key Academy.
Thank you, Ivana. Okay, good morning, everybody, and thank you for the introduction, Ivana. Maybe you have heard about the Network Key Academy because I was here at TechX. I'm not here in Denver at TechX. I'm presenting it a little bit. But in any case, I think it's good to have an update and that some people that may not know about it because it's done for the community. We're going to do a brief introduction to orchestration, automation, and virtualization, and we are working on the Network Key Academy. Then we will talk about architecture and the mapping of architectures to a blueprint. We will talk about the training, also about other things we have or other materials we are developing for the community, like the terminology document or the maturity model. And finally, we will see how we are trying to promote orchestration, automation, and virtualization among the research and education institutions. If you want to interrupt me at any time, I don't see you very well because of the light, but feel free to interrupt me. Okay, if you're here, maybe you already have heard this week about all the benefits of automation, and I don't need to go through all of them. With automation, you're going to make your life easier, and you're going to be prepared for digital transformation, whatever it means for each one of us. But in our case, in the GEANT project and the previous project, that started in 2019, our aim was to promote the adoption of OAV principles, OAV being orchestration, automation, and virtualization among the research and education community. And to do that, first we needed to know how we could help, because sometimes some entrants were already there, some entrants were already using automation, but some others didn't. So we asked. We had several workshops around the topic in 2019, in May, in June, in July, and in October. And we also did a survey to the entrants, to the National Research and Education Networks in Europe, that more than 30 of them answered. And the results are in this link in case you are curious. The questions were about what they were using or where they were using automation, and what was the status of the automation in their networks and in their organizations. And so when we got the answers and when we got the clear picture after all these conversations, the first thing that came to us was the knowledge. Knowledge was mentioned as a gap. There were some entrants that really knew about it, and they had skilled people to automate things. But there were many entrants that didn't have anyone, or they had network engineers, but these network engineers didn't have any idea about how to automate things on the network. So the feeling of a need of collaboration and knowledge exchange was very important. And there was also mentioned that we speak different languages, not just literally, because in Europe, some of us speak Spanish, some French, some Italian, or German, or whatever. Not everybody is speaking the same language. But it was not that only. It was also that when we were speaking about automation, things never were the same for everybody. So there was not a standard way of talking about automation. Also, we were asked about an architecture blueprint. The entrants wanted to have something to compare to each other, or some kind of architecture to put their own materials or their own tools in there. And the good thing about all this is that the research and education environment is really a collaboration environment, so we're willing to share experiences. It's not like in the private world, I'm doing this, but I'm not going to share with you because you're my competence. This is not our environment. We want to share, and we want to learn from others, and that's great, because then we can do something together. We started creating focus groups. With all this feedback we got, we created focus groups. As we were asked to talk or to do something about these different languages, we created a focus group on terminology. We were asked about an architecture blueprint, so there was a focus group on architecture and mapping. We had also several use cases. For instance, campus network management as a service is a clear example where you need automation, because if you are managing 10,000 switches at 1,000 kilometers away, you need to automate the management. We also had a public wiki where we put all the information together. And of course, we created a focus group on training. And this focus group on training is what started as the Network Automation e-Academy, but then all this Network e-Academy is like the umbrella that covers it all. We have also started with a quantum training. This is just not in the Network Automation e-Academy. This would be like a sibling training program for quantum technologies, because again, the need for training on these topics was also mentioned after a few iterations. And the last thing we have done is a maturity model, but I will talk about this in each case. If we start with architecture, this is where we started. We started studying standardization bodies architectures and project architectures. So we had like a picture of many architectures. We wrote a white paper that was like 100 pages long. But the idea with that study, or with that research, was to find something that could be useful for the entrants. And in some cases, it was not easy to apply one architecture to the way of working of some entrants, because, as I said, we do things differently. So the idea was to align efforts and to find similarities, to find ways for collaboration, and with the aim of having future interoperability, to orchestrate the creation of services among different domains and research and education networks. We found that the TM Forum Open Digital Architecture was flexible enough for us to be able to map everything there and still keep the independence between entrants. The TM Forum Open Digital Architecture is something that has been studied for years by many companies from the telecommunication world, so someone already thought about it, and it's flexible for that. But You should keep in mind this is a functional architecture. It's going to tell you the functional blocks you should have in your architecture, but it's not going to tell you how to do it technically. You have big blocks. You can map everything in these blocks. For instance, on the left side, oops, sorry. On the left side in pink, you have the engagement management. This is how you talk to your users, but not only to your users, how you communicate with organizations, with things. So it can be a website, but it can be an API if you're talking to things, let's say. On the top of the architecture in red, you have the party management block. This big block deals with who you're dealing with. So who are your customers? Who are your partners? Why are you talking to them? In the middle, the core. This core is like the business, the commercial view of the service. Remember that this comes also from commercial companies. But in our case, it's also a catalog. It's the SLAs, if we have them, the problem handling, the order handling. So everything that has to do with the commercial view, the what. On the bottom of the slide, but for us, it's not just the bottom, it's the most important and the biggest block. It's a production block. This is the technical view of the architecture. This is the orchestration. This is where the orchestration happens, and how. The operational domains. We can have like several different separate operational domains in the technical, in the production block. For instance, you can have layer 3 optical equipment. If you have different domains, they are here. And on the right side, you have the intelligence management. You take the logs, you see the logs, you do something about it, then you can create these closed loops. It's not just having logs in a place and that's it. It's just taking action about these logs. It's the analytics, the operational reality. With this blueprint, we are mapping end-run end-run architectures and also service architectures. We so far have published these ones here, and you have more information on the wiki. When we had all this architecture together and we had these big blocks, we thought, okay, we are going to create a training that follows exactly, or not exactly, but follows these functional blocks, because it will be easier for them if we have mapped their architectures or the functional blocks to follow a training that also follows somehow the blocks. So the idea was, let's have an introduction that is easy enough for everybody to follow and that touches every topic on the architecture and on the real life of an automation process, or on the real life of an institution that is doing things automatically. But for that, on the left side, we had, after the introduction, a more technical view, and on the right side, a not-so-technical view. So on the left side, we needed to introduce some DevOps concepts. That was clear, and this was not one of the functional blocks of the ODA, of the Open Digital Architecture. And then the coupling and integration. I didn't talk about the coupling and integration before. The coupling and integration is the glue that ties it all together, like the APIs. On the bottom, you have all the blocks of the ODA. And on the right side, there are studies on standards and commonly used architectures and our examples, our mappings of the architectures. With this in mind, then we thought, okay, it would be good to have like a journey. You can have the training, but still follow some kind of journey to see where you are. And this is where the Metro map comes into place. We put all the ideas we had together, and after some iterations, it became this Metro map. In this Metro map, you have the lines, the colors on the left side show you which color means, which line is each one of them. But the idea here is to have units, learning units that are devoted to some topics in particular, and also this introductory line, this green line that crosses absolutely everything on the map. So with the introductory line, you are crossing all the other lines, and if you want to go in depth into something, then you can follow, for instance, the purple line, or the blue line, or the yellow line. Here you can see that we have some units in black and some units in gray. The idea is that the black ones are the ones that we have already published. The gray ones are the ones that we have not published yet, but we plan to publish somehow. And we started with the more popular ones, or the ones that we thought that were more important for the trainees, for the learners. And then you see that we have round stations, stations that belong to more than one line, and also square stations. Round stations are Moodle learning units, and square stations are documents and external links. If a unit belongs to more than one station, this is like a hub, but of course you can also make your own itinerary and follow your own path. So this is the introductory line. As you can see here, the duration of each one of the courses is here. And they are from 10 minutes to 45 minutes, and most of them are 30 minutes or less. The idea is to have an introduction, not going in depth into details, but having it at your own pace, easy, and well, the videos are less than 15 minutes each. Sometimes we have more than one video, but they are not very long. As you can see, this is the green line, but only 3 of the units are green because all the others are the first unit of the corresponding line many times, because they are the introduction to something, and then you go in depth into that something. You follow the introduction to automation, then you go to Ansible, for instance. If you want to go in depth into something, this is the purple line, this is the duration. Here, the units are a little bit longer. It depends on the line also. Here, for Yang, it's only a 10 minutes unit, but we can have up to 4 hours, and the RESTConf unit is also going to be long, and it's about to be published. In some cases, in these lines that go more in depth into the details, we have lab exercises or installation processes, and then it takes longer, of course. But if you want to take your own path, you can go directly to the unit you want to follow. For instance, if you want to follow the Ansible unit, you go there. There is a requirement. This is the YAML unit. So you go to the YAML unit, and the requirement is the introduction to data models, data formats, and protocols. And if you go to the introduction, there are no requirements. So you can take your own path. You can start with this one, and then go to YAML, and then go to Ansible, or you can follow the path you want. You can go to the introduction to OEB to start with the training and see why we are doing this training and how is it structured and why you should use automation. Then the introduction to data models, data formats, and protocols, then the introduction to automation, and then go to YAML and to Ansible, and that's fine. For each unit, you have an overview tab. You have several tabs with content, then a quiz to see your knowledge, to check your knowledge. It's not an exam. We are not going to mark anything here. It's just that you know how you are going or how you are doing with the content you have learned. And then a feedback form and a certificate of completion. For the content tabs, you have videos with subtitles. The videos with subtitles are easy to follow for people in several countries because you can translate the subtitles to the language you want. And also, you have a file, a PDF, with the speaker notes. This means that you can download the presentation, and you will find all the subtitles you can find in the video, but with the content below, with the notes. That's why, because we know that people prefer learning with videos, but some other people prefer reading. And in any case, it's good that you can have the notes and you can have the details there. All the content under the Network Automation Academy and the Network Academy now is licensed with a Creative Commons license. This means anyone can download it and use it, can do whatever they want with it, but giving credit to us. And all the content is accessible with your EduGain user. So if you have a federated account in your organization, then you can access the units in the Network Academy. And either if you don't have a federated account, which is rare, but it can happen, then you can use social media accounts to identify yourself and to access the content. So it's not closed content, it's just that inside the platform we need to know how many users we have and how many people are following our units. Also to know if they are useful or not. Because we have feedback forms and some people fulfill them, but some people don't. So we need still to know how many people we have there and to see if the content is useful, because it's also something quite dynamic. We can put more information there. We would love to have your information. We're going to put information from the global doc, thanks to AJ. Thank you if you're here. And well, we are happy to put more square stations in our metro map and have this information of the GNet, for instance. Practical examples. Yes, we have some practical examples. In the introductory line, you will find introduction, but if you go in depth for Ansible, we have a mini lab with Vagrant. It's a testing environment where you can spin up a Unix server and a Junos box, and then you can play with that with your playbooks and your inventories. And there is a Git repository with examples of the unit. For NetConf, there is a complete installation guide with a virtual environment in GNS3, and also an example step-by-step on how to add a static route to a server, to a router. For NSO, we have the installation also of the free trial version and the implementation of a radio server over multiple devices, and also an example of how to deploy an ACL on multiple devices. So you can play with the tools, and the idea is that you then apply them to your own environment. Right now, we are about to publish Elasticsearch and GitLab. They are already done. We are just uploading the videos to the GNTV channel. And we're also quite there with ResConf and with VMware. We're also working on other units. For instance, we are starting with telemetry. We have a unit on Nagios that is quite done, Bamboo. There are all these gray stations are becoming black, step by step. And as I said, the Network Automation Academy then found that we needed training in other topics too that had to do with the network, and that's why we changed, and instead of calling it just Network Automation Academy, we call it Network Academy, and the Network Automation Academy is one part of it, and then we have the Quantum Academy with quantum topics. We have already started with quantum topics. We have the first unit release, the quantum algebra qubits one, but we're working on all the other ones. So there are many units in quantum technologies in progress. If you're interested, you can also follow them in the Academy. Regarding these different languages we speak, we created also a document after some research containing some glossary or acronyms also on automation, orchestration, virtualization topics, but also on artificial intelligence and a maturity model. This version is now number 2. We started with number 1, I think, in 2020, and then we did a second version that was version 1.1, and now this new version, it's 2.0. It's new because it's adding more content on artificial intelligence and maturity model. This document was also accepted by the GNAG Automation Working Group, the global one, because they thought about the same, but as we already had this document, then they adopted it as their own. And last but not least, the last thing we have done in the Networking Academy is to create a maturity model. Why? Because we want to let people self-assess their own case to know where they are and also where they want to be in the future. So if they have a lot of knowledge on automation, they are already quite well, but they may want to improve. So the idea is to measure the current OED capabilities in the organization in a meaningful way, identify strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats right now, and then see what actions they want to take and help prioritize what they want to do in order to advance and improve. The idea also is to have a journey from A to B. We are in A, we want to go to B, so we need to identify the gaps between the current state and the future state and see how to get there. Any maturity model has stages and dimensions. For each dimension, you can be on a different stage, and for each dimension, you can have difference of dimensions. In our maturity model, we thought about that quite a while. We first researched on existing automation maturity models, and we found that there was no single maturity model that could fit all the things we wanted to cover, and from the research and education environment, it can be also different. So we finally found that this was our good structure for the maturity model. 4 dimensions: architecture and technology, processes and services, vision and strategy, and people and organization. For each one of them, we have subdimensions, and for each subdimension, you can be on different stages. The stages can be up to 6. From 0, nothing, you're doing absolutely nothing, you're sitting, to 5, you are, yeah, like a rocket. So if you are in level 0, of course you're sitting. If you're in level 1, you have some ad hoc automation, you're crawling. In level 2, you have use case automation, project-based automation, silos, but you're there, you're starting walking. If you are in level 3, you have integrated automation through all the organization, so you're running. If you are in level 4, you are proactive, you are doing something automatically, depending on the results of something, these closed loops, you're flying. And in level 5, everything goes alone. It's self-everything. So I guess no one is there yet, but we would all want to be there someday, so we are energizing. This maturity model is a survey. It has 31 questions for each one of the subdimensions. I would love if we have answers from you, from this community. You are also research and education. It's not close to Europe. So if you want to answer it, the link is in the presentation. You also have in our wiki information on how to go through these stages and dimensions, and you have the presentations of the OAV maturity model info shared with it. Finally, we are also promoting the usage of orchestration, automation, and virtualization. We are presenting this, but we are also providing some content. We have a video. It's a promotional video. It's like marketing video, not technical, but to also be able to reach more people that are convinced of the good things that automation can bring us. It's our service automation for research and education in the GN TV channel. We published a pamphlet with an infographic about the virtualization, the automation, orchestration, and virtualization journey on the digital platform concepts. And we have the wiki. In the wiki, we have a community portal. And in the community portal, we have examples from different organizations. There are also examples that we took from the technical exchange last year. So there are examples from Internet 2, from the Global NOC, that we would like to also have with other examples that could come. And then we have all the sections that I mentioned before: architecture, training, maturity model, terminology. We have links with literature, and these examples of usage, the campus network management as a service, and the creation of virtual DTNs, and dissemination. The deliverables we have published, the info shares we have done, the presentations we have done. And with that, I just would like to thank our trainers. These people are either university professors, developers, network engineers that are helping creating this content in the Network E Academy. And also, we would like to thank the work package leaders like Ivana that are supporting us, the GEAN Learning and Development team, and the communications team at GEAN that are also there to support this initiative and to make us useful for the community. And now Ivana is going to follow up. I hand over to her.
Thank you.
Ivana.
Thank you, Maria Isabel. So, as Maria Isabel said, people that are working on this material are not just, thank you, they are university professors, but they are also very much involved in practical work. So, within our project, we do use a lot of things that we get from the Network E Academy, but as well, we also have some practical and operational production services in our project. So, I will tell a little bit about some of them from the perspective of what they are, what's the architecture, how it could be used, where you can find more information. The first one is the network management as a service. This is a production service as well as a service provider architecture. The third one, GMP4 Lab, it is actually a testing facility. And the last one is an initiative that we are starting and that we hope you might be willing to join together with us. So NMAS stands for Network Management as a Service. And basically, this is a cloud-based platform with a portfolio of tools that are looking primarily at network and service management. And the idea is that any user might be able to access the system using EduGain credentials and be able to choose which of the available tools might help him to manage and monitor their network and equipment and set up their own instance. So with that, they will be able to focus just on managing the network and not also to think about all the sysadmin things of maintaining the network management system, etc. This is, as a cloud-based solution, multi-tenant. And with the system, the way how it is designed and delivered, it provides private access from the users to our platform and in a very highly available, resilient, resistant system. The links on the right-hand side provides more information, and actually the last link is the direct link to the portal. So here you can see the architecture of NMAS. The picture on the left actually shows that in its essence it is a Kubernetes system. The tools are defined using the Helm charts and prepared as Dockerized images, and it has its portal through which users can access. But on the right-hand side, you might see how this looks like when presented from the perspective of TM Forum Open Digital Architecture that Maria Isabel mentioned earlier. So if you know that engagement management functional block is the one through which end users of NMAS are accessing our system, then you might be able to see that NMAS portal and EduGain are serving the purpose of accepting users, checking if they are authorized, etc. If you want to know what is being logged in, what type of the analysis is done on logs or any other things related to intelligence management, then you can see this on the block on the right-hand side. So you can see that on the left-hand side, we have our own blocks like NMAS portal, Git, NMAS, Shibboleth. So if you know what these things mean, then it's easy for you. If you are not sure, but then you do know what ODA functional blocks mean, then it might be easier for you just by looking at the picture on the right-hand side to understand what is under the hood of our NMAS system. Basically, Kubernetes cluster system protected by pfSense firewall with VPNs that enables users to have secure access from their premises towards our system. Domains defined for each of the users, which are marked here as those dashed lines that actually present what is the set of the equipment that is being managed by that particular user. And at the moment, we have 28 applications available on our portal. Some of them are well known, and some of them are coming also from our project. We have actually realized that it is relatively easy to add almost any tool. So what we are adding is those for which we have a valid use case to add. What is then needed is a Dockerized image, a Helm chart, metadata, information about the application. So whatever we wanted to add, we managed to do that. So that means that if you have any special requests that you don't see here and would like to see, just let us know and we will consider it. So why would somebody like to use NMAS? So, for example, if there is a small institution in Europe, there are a lot of schools where they don't really have people that are tasked to manage or well-trained to manage their local area network. So in some ways, in some cases, for them it is some overhead, and they just want to be done with that. So if they need to manage network equipment, then they might not want to do other things like set up a Linux server, install all the things, do all the sysadmin work, etc. So with this, NMAS provides this central platform. They can set up all of these sysadmin things that they need, and then literally just to manage the networking equipment that they have on site. Another example is, for example, equipment that is bought through different projects. We will mention later the example of GMP Lab, where we have a number of devices that are bought by a number of organizations, and they all present one system. So who will manage that? If each of the institutions will put their device in their network management system, then it can hardly be seen as a whole infrastructure. So in that case, if you use NMAS and add all of these individual devices that somehow participates in some project with a number of participating organizations, then NMAS can be a suitable solution for that. Another use case that is actually being put into production this month is using NMAS as a virtual lab. So leveraging the possibility that you can trigger up instances as needed, that you can install applications, that you can do bulk application deployment, that you can have the situations where a team can work on one instance. It was realized that such a thing can be useful for education. So we have a university professor that will now use NMAS for their lab exercises, for example, to study software vulnerabilities or to try to test some software that they are producing, etc. There are two main ways how NMAS can be used. One is as a managed service. So we have two platforms. One is a production instance where, for example, those that are managing school networks are using for their 24/7 daily operations. But another way is to use our sandbox instance where people can do just to test. Is it something that can be suitable for them? Do they like that particular application or not? And in both cases, the system is managed by us. Another option is to take NMAS software and then install it for yourself, by yourself, in your own environment. One way is to set up your own Kubernetes cluster and then set up something that corresponds, let's say, to our production instance. And another way is to have it on your local machine. Here you can see the links that will direct you towards pages with more information. And the picture on the right-hand upside is how NMAS looks like once when you log in the system. Another topic that we would like to present is service provider architecture platform. So first, what is service provider architecture? This term comes from TM Forum, and this is a modular blueprint guide that at the end helps you to transition from traditional OSS BSS environments towards digital business platform. It is actually a guide for designers and developers that can enable you to set up and automatically run network services through all of their lifecycle stages. Again, the links on the right-hand side direct you to more information. So service provider architecture platform is built upon the concepts of SPA, so that it is not just some theoretical thing on a number of pages. And it is used for some operational services that the GEANT organization is running. It has a common information model. It is TMF frameworks compliant. It uses automation and orchestration wherever possible, and it supports all life cycle stages of these services that they are providing. So again, on the left-hand side, you have the picture of our SPA platform, presented with our own images, let's say, and on the right-hand side, you have these left side boxes as presented through ODA model. So with this, you can again see the pattern. If you know what each of these blocks are doing, it might be probably much easier for you to understand what each of these blocks on the left-hand side actually do. So there are things like a service catalog where actually we keep the information about all the services that are provided through SPA platform, custom relationship management software, order management, then service inventory and resource inventory. Those two parts are developed in-house by our team. As I said, it uses orchestration wherever possible. It is using open source orchestrator, and actually the overall solution is trying to leverage open source software wherever possible with developing the parts that are missing and that are needed, that are specific for us. As I mentioned, the resource and service inventory are in-house built components that we are using as the single point of truth for all the orchestration and automation that is done within SPA. Also, for example, resource and service inventory can be used independently from all the other elements of the SPA, and they are currently being tested in a pioneer network of Posen Supercomputing and Networking Center to be implemented and deployed there. There are two services that are currently based on SPA. One is the Géant Connection Service, and this is run by a Géant organization. In its essence, those are point-to-point layer 2 circuits for Microsoft's Express route. And on the right-hand side, you can see some numbers like how many routers currently participate or are a part of this service, how many automated workflows, terminated circuits are available. It is actually using OpenNSA as the activation component. All the developments are done together with the Géant Operations Center because actually this is their service, so this is the under the hood, let's say, part of this Géant GCS service. Another service that is currently available, and it is again more for testing and to see if that could be something that could be suitable for us. And this is the reason why it is made available through NMAS. It is an E-line service. So this is actually used as a sandbox for those that would like to experience what SPA is and in a way also what NMAS is. The picture on the left-hand side actually presents the icon that we can see once when logging in to NMAS. The third topic is GP4L, which initially started as a name for Géant P4 Lab. So in essence, those are 4 switches, P4 based, that are placed in 4 cities in Europe, in Amsterdam, Poznan, Frankfurt, and Budapest. And initially, the idea was that since within the project we were developing open source routing operating system, that we actually wanted to see how it works. So it is not just we have developed something and it works on my laptop, yeah, that's great, but we really want to see how it would work like in a real network. So we bought 4 switches, placed them in 4 cities, and this is what we started with. But very soon after that, we received a request, can we maybe use your equipment since it is there and I have my own P4 software, so can I maybe install it and see if it works in your lab? I will get everything back as it was. So then we realized that there are actually 2 use cases. One is we are developing the software, we would like to try, but also this whole P4 community is becoming more and more active for several years now, so why not work together and see if there are some cases where somebody else is developing something good that would like to try. So this is what became a second use case for the Géant P4 Lab. I mentioned rare. So RARE stands for Router for Academia, Research and Education, and this is an open source routing platform that is actually designed for white box switch. At its control plane, it is using a free router, so this is why we very often refer to this as a RARE free router, and here you can see more information about it. This is example of a switch that was bought in this first set, so those 4 switches that I presented were these ones, but now when you visit that link on the wiki page, you can see a table like this, so you can see a complete list of features that are currently supported as a part of RARE, and also platforms that we are working on, and which of these platforms do or do not support which of these the features. So the features that we were looking at are basically all of them, but we can categorize them into interior routing protocol, external routing protocol, network management, etc. Also, as this is a very dynamic area, we have started with some platforms, but we are very actively looking at everything that is available and developing for different platforms. So this is, let's say, the current status, but it is, of course, subject to change. So please take a look at the links. If anything is of interest, let us know. We have tried to put as many URLs and the email addresses on these slides so that you can contact us if you have any suggestions or would like to use. So this has started as a 4-switch network, but then very soon people from our community from Europe wanted to connect their equipment. And then also when we started to talk about it at some events and globally, then we also got people from other continents to join, like UFS and RNP from Brazil and Starlight. So this is how it looked at one point of time, but in October last year, this was a part of CYNET network that was set up for the supercomputing 2022, and at that time it had more than 20 locations. This whole wide deployment was done in a collaboration with the GNAG Data Intensive Science Working Group, and since then this has still continued to develop. So now it is no longer just the GEAM P4 Lab, but we are using the same acronym and started to call it Global P4 Lab. So Global P4 Lab is that good example why NMAS can be useful. So more than 20 locations from more than 15 organizations that own these switches. So how do we manage this? And this is why, how we are using NMAS. So on the right-hand side, you can see which of the tools from the NMAS portfolio we have chosen to use to manage and monitor our GMP, Global P4 Lab. And again, using the possibilities that it is a safe environment through VPNs, and that this domain of Global P4 Lab is literally global, so it is not limited just to one school or one physical location. Here are some of the use cases that were tested using the Global P4 Lab. So, for example, topology monitoring with the BGPLS. BGPLS is implemented in a RARE free router software stack. Then next generation multicast, which was done together with, in collaboration with Juniper Akamai. Polka source routing paradigm was tested initially and designed, of course. This is something that Institute and University Espirito Santo created, and this is now also integrated in a RARE free router platform. CERN has tested packet market specification using IPv6 flow label, and of course supercomputing NEMO. And again, links related to either GMP4 Lab or RARE free router. And last but not least, while I was presenting those 3 topics, you might have noticed that I said in NMAS, you can test this or that. So SPA, you have that testing instance that you might be able to use to try either SPA or some of its components. The Global PIFO Lab, GM PIFO Lab, those are again some testing facilities. So in case you would like to know what are different testing facilities that we are providing as a part of our network development project in the GM project, we thought that it might be a good idea to create a separate page, not to say portal, it was mentioned on the first day that maybe portal shouldn't be used that often, but actually to a page where you might be able to find more information about what we are offering or somebody else is offering. So this is why we decided to set up or define the Tech Lab. It is more as an initiative to facilitate access to information than a separate application for itself or separate service for itself. The idea is to have a place where we will have all the testing facilities, or as many as testing facilities as possible, not just coming from our project, but also from anybody else that would like to share something, and then to use this to raise the awareness of what exists, what is available, to promote what is done. Like, I've used this and here are my results, this is how this has helped me. Then also to increase the visibility of what exists in any of the communities. And the way how we are doing this is actually to provide the information. We have pages for each of these testing elements with information like what it is, what it offers, which services are actually behind this, who is supporting this, what type of support can you get, etc. And this is an example how it looks for persona components that are available in NMAS. At the moment, Tech Lab has these 6 links, let's say, 6 different things. One is the Global PIFO Lab. Another one is NMAS, looking primarily at NMAS sandbox instance, and also all the other NMAS testing facilities, like, for example, persona components, SPA E-line component, SPA inventory, and WiFiMon. So for persona, which is very well known in this community, what we realized is that, again, if you want to measure and monitor your network, then you will need to put all of those measurement points in the relevant places for your network. And then there are some central components that you have to have in order to be able to run all of this. But at the same time, all of these central components require some additional management. So we decided to put these central components on NMAS so that you can use them on NMAS. This was done initially before Persona 5.0 was released. So we plan to update these components. As you all know, as you might know, Persona 5.0 was released in April, so it is still a time when people are updating their systems. So relatively soon we will proceed with updating these components. But at the moment what we have there is Persona Central Management, SMONT, MEDESH, and psconfig web admin, or PWA, of course. WiFiMon is a tool and a production service that we have that enables Wi-Fi network monitoring and performance verification. WiFiMon is done so that it could be used either as software crowdsourced measurements. So, for example, when in some web page you enter some code, and when somebody accesses that page, then you get some information that can help you assess how that page was perceived by that user, or as hardware probes, mostly using Raspberry Pis. This link at the bottom actually provides all of these information that are on the slide, including that WiFiMon is vendor agnostic, technology agnostic, so it can be very useful in situation when you have a heterogeneous Wi-Fi network. So if you have one vendor and you have their controller, then you're all set. You might not need that. But for example, in this case, when we have a conference like this, when we have a hotel Wi-Fi, internet to Wi-Fi, edge your own Wi-Fi, hotel lobby Wi-Fi, hotel guest Wi-Fi, then you actually might not know if your Wi-Fi is really okay. And you probably won't be able to speak with the techie guys from the hotel. I want to check how it will be. But you might be able to set up a few of Raspberry Pis around there and then to see how it really looks like from the perspective of your users. So similarly as with Personer, WiFiMon will have their probes set around, but also there are some central components like analysis server. So we have put on NMAS these central components that you might be able then to use, if nothing else, just to see if WiFiMon is something that can be useful for you. And then if it is, you might as well decide that you want to have everything on your premises and to have those central components also at your premises, but at least you can see how it looks like, how the screens would look like, and is this something that you would like to consider. What do we plan to do next related to Tech Lab? So at the moment, just to start this as an idea, we have put the things that we currently have in our project. So we have so far created these things that at that moment we thought are useful for our community, and we will continue looking at these future things too. We have also at some point of time done some measurements in our network that required to have different, let's say, VMs in different places to trigger some measurements from point A to point B. And then there were some organizations that were very happy to help us and provide their facilities to do so. And they said, it will be okay, I can do the same thing for other people. So if you want other people to know that I have these facilities to offer, it's okay with me. So one future step might be to speak with people. So if they have, let's say, a set of VMs that they would like others to be able to use, we can create a page, say this is what this company organization is offering, here are the contacts, if you want to use, contact them, and you can set it. So we are not taking the resources, we are just increasing the visibility that something like that exists. The level of maintenance, support, the future developments, everything is on the obligation of that party that is providing this. If they decide not to do this anymore, it is also okay. So with Tech Lab, we are basically collecting the information about available testing facilities, presenting this in one place so that people from our community, and of course by our community I mean also all of us because we are in the same community, that we can actually know about that and that we can use it. So if you want to know more, if you want to join, if you have some resources that you would like to share, please let us know. And with this, I would like to hand over again to Maria Isabel. Thank you.
Thank you, Ivana. Yeah. Thank you. Well, oops, sorry. Then we're about to finish this presentation, but we would like to just remind you ways of getting involved or collaborating if you want. For instance, you can provide examples for the community portal, as I mentioned before, help creating learning units, share your knowledge. I know there is a lot of knowledge in the community, in the research and education community, and if you want to share it with the other members of the community, they will be glad, and you will be a good person, and they will be very happy. You can also map your architecture to the blueprint. We can help you with that if you want. You can run the maturity model survey. This is something that is going to help you. I didn't mention it before, but the maturity model survey can be fulfilled, and you will receive the maturity model for you, but this is not going to be published. We are not going to publish your information because this is for you. This is a self-assessment. We are going to have aggregated statistics just to be able to compare your case to others to see where you are in the average. Also, you can use the materials that Ivana presented and Tech Lab and provide feedback. Contact us whenever you want. You have the message, you have the email address here, but we can also chat around. We're here today. We have other production services we have not mentioned yet, and that are services since last year. Argus, for instance, is an alarm aggregation and correlation tool that started in the Nordic countries. Sweden had a tool to manage the network, and Norway was using that tool, but for each one of the instances in their campus network management services, they had a different instance. So they wanted to have all the alarms aggregated, and then we started working with that in the GEAN project, and this is now a service to have all the alarms in a single place and correlate them. We also have TimeMap. TimeMap is an open source latency and jitter measurement service that is very useful and is now in production in the GEAN core network to see this latency and this jitter, especially useful for low latency applications like Lola. I know Claudio Locchio is out there. If you have any questions, he's your man. You can also see, of course, the wiki, but I guess that if Claudio is here and you want to know more about TimeMap, and you can reach him. We also have the performance measurement platform, or PMP, based on Persona to just also see the performance issues that can happen on the network. And we're also working on other services that are not yet services, but they are under our umbrella of network development. We are working on the possibilities of optical time and frequency networks. This is one step ahead of NTP. This is just using the fibers to synchronize the time. And on quantum technologies, not just the training on quantum technologies, but also exploring the quantum key distribution possibilities. We have some events where we are going to be in the next month. For instance, next week we're going to be at the SIGNOC meeting talking about Argus and Persona. This is going to be in Stockholm, in Sweden, but it's also available online. It's possible to join online. So if you want to join, you can register and it's free. And in the next week, after the next week, it's in the RIPEX 86, we are going to present WiFiMon and TimeMap. In June, we are going to have a meeting of the GNAG Automation Working Group in Utrecht, in the Netherlands, and we're also going to be in Atlanta, we're in Atlanta now, in Tirana, in Albania, presenting the network development in the GEAN project, similar to what we presented today, and also with more in-depth information on the maturity model, Argus, WiFiMon, and the quantum internet activities in European entrance. We will have a side meeting at TNC, and then by the end of June, in the 21st of June, there is an info share of quantum solutions online, completely online. And with that, I think that thank you very much for listening to us this time in the morning so early. And we're ready for questions if you want, or for discussions. So please, if you have anything to say or any questions, we're here to try to answer them. Any comments? If not, yeah.
So the SPA suite, are those modules, as far as how those different modules talk to each other, are they extensible so that, like, say, if you're using NetSuite for your contact management, is there a way to shim that in or do you have to use the one that comes with the service provider?
So SPA is designed and realized as a modular thing.
Mm-hmm.
All the APIs that are used are TM Forum compliant. The reason why it is done so is because we are also aware that different organizations are using different systems for, I don't know, CRM, orchestration, whatever. So, and of course, if you are running a real network, then you will not just overnight decide, oh, I want to use something different. So with that, these APIs are actually enabling you to change any of the components within reasonable time to fit what you have comparing with the rest of your system. So one option is, if you are starting from scratch, take it as it is and have a clean slate. If that's not the case, then you can consider which of these components might be useful for you, and then to see, of course, through a transition process, which is normal every time when something is changing, how to fit one element into what you have. So our team will be available to go through these processes to discuss what should be done, how should be done, and to help actually to achieve what you want. The idea with this, the thing with SPA is that at the same time, GCS service was being designed from scratch as SPA was. So then it was relatively easy because that was in a way a clean slate for them. They could set it all up. But for example, there is another service, which is a Giant IP service that exists as such for several years now. I don't know, 15, 20, and for that it has its process. First, to start with transitioning from the existing single point of truth or starting point towards this model that we have, so that both services can start from the same point, which is service and resource inventory, and then it goes further to the system. Does this answer the question?
It does very much.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hello.
Hello.
Xiang from YesNet, and that's very, very nice talks. Yeah, I really enjoyed and really great stuff. So quick question. So if I want to actually try your NM as a service platform, just like a set up like Netbox or Professional, so what it takes, what's the process to actually to get in there?
So when you visit the nmas.eu, on the right-hand side, all up, there is a login. So you can log in there using EduGain. EduGain, as you might know, uses SSOs from different research and education institutions, but also offers possibility to use some social media accounts. So then you request to set up an instance. If it's easier, you can as well write to the email address nmas@list.gian.org, and then we can contact you and work together to set it up.
Okay, so that's kind of like I make a request for each service I want to set up, or it's just give me like a blank check, I can do anything I want?
No, so there are a few things there. When you set up the instance, then you are choosing which applications you want to install. So with one instance, you can have as many applications from the portfolio as you need. If you remember the slide that I showed for the GMP for lab, there was a list of different tools that are just for this purpose. So it is not one instance per tool. The thing why this collaboration with our team is useful is because usually people want to set up VPNs. So then it might really require that we collaborate in order for this to be set up and so. But behind this is everything is automated, so it is not that you will have to do this or that our team will need to manually set something up.
Yeah, second question, and I saw you also have an open source option. So besides what you're doing, so have you any conversation with other organizations like Internet Tool, say if they have any interest to actually set up something similar, so folks in the US can actually have like some place to use more like close to their facilities?
So I'm not sure. So there are two questions there. One is about using the software. So as far as we are concerned, it is open source software. So whoever wants to take the software and install in their own environment, it is okay with us. We can, of course, provide support and help in case some things doesn't go as smoothly as one would expect. Another question, as I interpreted it, is would the Internet 2 be willing? But it is more a question for Internet 2.
Yeah, not just specific to Internet 2, but have you had any conversation with other organizations to say, have you ever had any such conversation, say other people are interested in hosting the same services?
We had in Europe. In Europe, for example, in France, they have a number of institutions for which they were considering setting up their own ENMA system and have these possibilities internally. We think that if this is, let's say, one-off thing, like one school in Slovenia, then it's logical that it would be on our system. But if, for example, one big national research and education network or one big organization has a lot of such cases, then maybe for them, I mean, personally, I would do that if I know that I have a number of institutions that I would probably like to manage this whole system myself. So this is a possibility. We don't have too many such requests, but there are the use cases where this is seen as useful, yes.
Okay, that's great. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Question for you. I was looking at the E-Academy and the network automation thing there. I was wondering, do you have, and I probably just missed it, but are there already predefined paths through the various things? You mentioned, there's some that have prerequisites before you can proceed. Mm-hmm. Are there like predefined paths saying, I want to start here, and then it'll just walk you through it, or do you just sort of go through each one as you see fit?
In fact, well, as you saw, not all the units are already been published, but we recommend starting with the introductory line, so all the green line, and then after that you go back to the first big station that crosses many stations, and then you start with the data formats, data models, and protocols, and you follow all the lines. In fact, there is a path. You should follow, starting from the top. Once you have done the green line, you should do the purple one, and then go following all the stations till the end, until the intelligence management finishes. And then you have a unit towards the intelligent networks that says, okay, with this content, what can you do? And this is like the future where you could go. But yes, there is a path.
Okay. All right, thank you.
No problem.
What we have also noticed is that there are different approaches. In some cases, some university professors are directing their students look at that particular module. So then it might be a starting point. Another option is when people start from scratch and there where it leads them. So at some point in time, they might jump from one place to another. So it really can differ from one case, let's say, to another.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so we're just in time, nearly. Any questions? We have time for one more question if you want. If not, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you.